got a party or a celebration coming up where you'd like to have some sort of nice design at the area where people are entering the party or the reception, something that just shouts celebration without being a massive display. What we're going to do today, just move my water bottle out of the way. What we're going to do today is look at how we can make something that is inviting, that is celebratory, and that is simple to put together. What I'm suggesting you use is the garland foam. Now, I know that there's lots of debate around the world about using floral foam. For some activities, this is the way I would recommend you try out a new design, because you get an idea of placements without having to worry about the structure falling over in front of you. So use the foam rather, but use it sparingly. So use it for a little bit of practice, for a little bit of confidence building, so that you can feel that you know the format for putting the design together, and then work out how you can replace this with some other mechanic. For today, we'll use the garland. For those of you who haven't seen them, they come in a pack like this from your florist supplier from online. They're all connected, and you just cut them to however many you want to use. The other bonus of that is that you're using a minimum amount of the foam. So rather than have a block and have to cut it down and have the offcuts and all of the rubbish that has to be thrown away anyway, you've got this, it's contained in the plastic mesh, so it's not going to crumble as much when you're trying to use it. Lots of advantages in using these rather than the blocks to minimise the amount of foam that you're actually using in your designs. So we've got a nice plate that we're going to use, and I've chosen that particularly because I want the flowers to be, or the plant material to be, the focus of this design, not the plate. It's not about the plate, it's about this celebration of plants and the celebration that's happening for whatever it is that you're doing. I'm also going to use this makeshift turntable because I've left my turntable elsewhere. So this is actually, just as an aside, this is actually one of those things that you buy to put on a seat if you have trouble turning around, and it turns, the base of it sits on the seat and the top part turns around so that you can swing it out of a chair more easily than might otherwise be the case. The other thing I should mention, for those of you who are following the earring journey, the earrings today are made from recycled aeroplane ties. Oh, they're quite soft. I know they look big, they're not heavy at all, they're very soft and quite light. So recycled aeroplane ties are today's earring story. Let's get on with our design. Soak your floral foam in water, first of all. And then we want to have, obviously we need to secure this to the plate so that it doesn't move around too much. And we're actually going to use some plant material to do that. Today we're going to use, these are stalks from the agapanthus. So I've got some agapanthus heads that I'm going to use in the rest of the design, and these are the stalks from those that I've already cut down ready to use. So we're just going to make some legs, and this is obviously a contemporary design, so depending on where you want don't always have it in the centre, have it one or the other, particularly if it's going to go on a table where there's a wall behind it. Then you would want the bulk of the material to be at the back, so that the effect of it is at the front. So let's do it that way. Let's say that it's going to go up against the wall. If it was to go somewhere where people were walking all around it, then you could have it at one side or the other, so long as there was interest all the way around. Have it in the centre. You could have it at an angle if you wanted to, and put something else under it to hold that up. But for today, we'll work on that. And we're just going to make some legs either side. We're going to stick it into the foam so that it holds the foam in place and gives it a little bit of strength. And we're going to add some others so it enhances the idea of that. Cut them on an angle. What to watch with this is that this is a design that's only going to be on display for a little bit of time, because obviously these will deteriorate. Even though they're in water, they're not, the water's not going to keep them alive for a great deal of time. So the air will affect that cut surface, and so that area will go brown. can rub it with lemon juice, same as you would with fruit, and that might stop the oxidisation a little bit. But we won't worry about that too much. What we might do is have it come over the edge. Don't be constrained by your container, so bring it out over the edge a little bit, so about there. And then we don't want to push it through the foam because that takes up too much space in the foam and it doesn't need that water source particularly, so that one can be a straight cut. And then it's as low down as you can in the foam, just insert your legs. And already that's nice and secure in the plate. But we will put another one in here, and we're going to put some crosses as well to give it the feeling of a little bit of a work of art. That one's probably just the right size, given that I don't have to. Now, with the angles, keep them either the same way or the opposite way, so that there's some pattern to what you're doing. I'm going to keep them the same way. Get it into about the same distance. This one's going to be a little bit shorter. Same way, needs to be trimmed a little bit. So there we have the start of our design, and that's nice and secure on the plate. Now, what I would like to have is a couple of cross braces. They don't necessarily need to go into the foam. You could actually wire them on if you wanted to, but we will keep them close to the foam. You could weave them to hold them in place, but this is fairly solid material, the old agapanthus, so that probably won't work. And in terms of how far I've come off the plate in these areas, not that one so much, and that'll just be a different point of interest that it's in. It just gives it a little bit of asymmetry. What we could do to match that is to have this one on this side only come to the edge and still come over that way, and so you get the balance, the repetition of the way that is looking. So we might do that. Let's get another stalk. Now I'm just going to let it rest, let it sit on there, because I'm quite comfortable that will stay there once I've got all the other plant material in there. So I'll spin that round so you can see how it's looking now. And we'll grab another spin, which I'll have to get up to get. Other thing to do, remember with these, is to try and keep them the same thickness. This one's got a bit of a twist on it, so probably not ideal to use. So it also has a twist on it, but it might work a little bit better, so we'll use that one, which will be there to match the edge. This one's going to come out. Now, because this one's got the twist on it, I'm actually going to secure it into the oasis to keep it in position. Obviously don't need it as long because it's I'll only go in as far as these other ones are there. So there we have the start of our design, the base of our design, nice and solid in there, looking interesting. we need to fill this area in here. And so what I'm going to use are the agapanthus heads. Now the flowers are finished, but there's no reason for you not to use these. They're very, very versatile. They last for ages in or out of the water. They will start to die off, obviously, and they go in that lovely brown colour. I'll put up some images of ones that I've actually got drying, ready to use for something else. Seed heads on them if they've still got them. If not, you trim them or just pull them off. If there's only a few, pull them off, and so you've just got the basic spine-looking greenery, and then you can actually cut it and shape it and make all sorts of interesting things out of it. So let's just put some of these in. Now these have got very thick stems. Again, you don't necessarily need water, so if you wanted to save the foam, you could actually put a toothpick or a skewer inside it, and then it's going to take up much less space in the foam. But what I'll do is push them down to the base as far as I can. And this is called basing, because you're filling in the base. I'm going to do 4 sides first and then see what else I need to put in. I'm going to loop it in and over the supports that I've got there already. I'm not using that one because it hasn't got a base, and so it won't secure the supports the way I want it to. There we are, we've gone just around the edges and put our basing material in. There's still a couple of gaps. We've got some filler greenery that we'll use in the gaps, but what I want to now do is add the focal flowers so that we get a sense of the bare bones of the finished design, and then we can fill in with our other filler greenery. So for that, I've got some pineapple lilies. Great long-lasting flower. They actually have a tendency to grow in all sorts of unusual ways. So I've got some others that I'm using for something else that have got lovely shapes to them. Once again, as I've said before, don't discount anything that isn't perfect, because you can actually, in a creative way, use it to enhance a design. We don't want to see the picture perfect design every time. Sometimes we want to see things reflected as they are in nature. So for this one, this is the biggest of the flowers I've got. So I'm going to let that give me the height. Remember, we're looking just for visually balanced designs, something that is about 1.5 times, so it needs to be about there to give us a nice, again, this is quite a thick stem, so rather than try and force it into the foam, and because it's quite fleshy, it might not take up the water as easily as you would like it to, cut it flat, put at least 2 and probably 3 toothpicks in there, and push the toothpicks into the foam and just have this touching the edge of the foam to give it some support, some strength to stand up straight, but the water itself will go in through the toothpicks into the plant material. So let's just put it in there like that. Now I've got a couple of others that'll go in beside it. We might go at an angle to give it reflect the angles that are on in this greenery. Very good, conveniently cut. Bonus. Have those ones in. So now we see the bare bones of our celebration reception table. arrangement design. So what I've got to fill it in is woolly bush. Mirrors the shapes, the line that we're using in this design, but it's a different texture. It's not as sparse as this, so it's a little bit fuller. It's a softer look. These are quite spiky looking, even though they're not spiky to feel. And it's a similar colour in the greens, reflects a range of the greens that are already in the design. So very quickly I'll just fill in this so that you can see what the finished product is going to look like. There we go. I have finished putting in all of the filler foliage into the design so that it's starboard list on this one. But I actually might leave it there because it creates interest. These designs don't have to be perfect. They just have to tell a story. So this tells a story of bursting out, excitement, celebration. If you wanted to add something that was a little bit of bling, as I do with many of my clothing, earrings, glasses, whatever, the simplest way is with a little bit of what is called stringing. So this is simply some wire, and you can use any kind of wire. You could use thread if you wanted to, but the wire will actually allow you to put it in place. So any kind of wire, you know, copper insulation wire is as good as anything. You just go to the hardware store and buy a reel of wire, and then onto it are beads. Well, these ones are obviously pearl beads, and you just sort of drape it around, make it interesting. Doesn't, you know, if you don't want too much of the wire to show, then you push that down into the design. You could do it with ribbon, but I actually like the delicacy of the wire, and it sort of gives you a little hidden touch to some of your designs without it being obvious. You see a little glitter of something, or a little token of colour here and there, and you can wonder what that is, whereas the ribbon is a very bold statement. So ribbon would work, obviously, and if you've got a colour theme for your celebration and you've got ribbon that you're using in other things, then put the ribbon, some of that ribbon into your design. Otherwise, just drape your wire and do it in and out. So some out, some in to the design, same as we have with the plant material. And there we have just a little touch of glamour to our design for our indoor reception table.